So I've read your bio, and it's fascinating what you do in terms of relaunching, people's careers past 40. Okay. And I think that that's a really good niche. So my first question is, could you get Doug and I a job?
Yeah, of course I could.
No. See, we're unemployable. We're essentially unemployable. I'd be fired by lunchtime on day one of going back to any corporate.
Why is, yeah, but if you say corporate, then you said if I could fix you a job, that's
okay.
a different story. So if you would say, can I get you a job at the corporate, then that might be different, but it's still.
So explain to us what you do essentially. Why does a person need to relaunch their brand, after 40? Or why is my generation and Doug's generation, why is that so critical for us?
I think it's two things. It is relaunching your career, and it is the personal branding. So it's two separate things. I think many people and I would say my own age as well, that are in a position where most of them have had a very good career. It's been very successful. And then COVID happened and they lost their job. And now when they're getting back on the market, they're not as attractive anymore as they used to be. Going back, applying for a job with a CV doesn't work anymore. So that's the big issue here, that understanding why, even though I have a fantastic CV with amazing results, why am I not getting any traction? Why am I not getting invited to interviews anymore? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, yes, you have to be visible. So if we still have this old way of seeing that we have to apply for a job the traditional way, and it's only 20% of the jobs that is available on that is advertised basically. And the number of perm roles is even reducing because we are in a gig economy. So if you only focus on that, you're going to reduce your chances even to have an opportunity to get the job. So what I'm helping them with is to rethink their experience and understanding what is it that you actually want. We have been in a position on the job market where people have told you what to do, and now you have to tell people what you want to do. So you have to see yourself as a problem solver, not a job title. You have to see how can I help a company with what they do? And from that, you can basically find a job tomorrow, if I simplify it. But not many people know what they want. They want someone else to tell them. And that's what I work with. So the coaching side of things is to get people to understand what they want, but also what they can do. And I think, again, the older generation is a bit fixed around, but I don't have the skills, or I have never worked in that industry, or have never done this before. And I'm more working towards, as long as you know where to find that information, you can go into almost any sector. So yeah, that's basically.
Do you think that that's a cultural thing, Jenny? I mean, the last big consulting gig I had was with a German group, and I was in, Germany, 7-8 times a year. Mm. And I noticed the cultural difference about working with, the German, environment as opposed to the US, as opposed to the Aussie, as opposed to the Japanese. And so do you think that conservativeness and that sort of fixed, because as we get older, we've obviously got more fixed ideas about what we want or what we don't want. But is that a cultural thing, do you think?
No, not really. I think it is similar across the board. But I was actually talking to a guy yesterday who was from Germany, and he said nobody in Germany goes on LinkedIn almost to do what he's doing with content marketing and all of that. So he said, in Germany, it is only perm roles that people go for. So they see him as very exotic, that he's start showing himself that he can do gig works and everything. So it might be that some cultures are, to say, a bit more fixed. I would say now, since I've been on LinkedIn, just like Doug was saying, I'm in contact with people from probably 20 countries right now around the world. Okay. And I would say US, Australia, Canada are the one that is in the forefront when it comes to adopting LinkedIn and being very forward on LinkedIn. and the other countries are coming. I mean, even Sweden is very slow on doing, what do you say, being active on LinkedIn. And you can be active, but you don't make the most of it. If I would say it's one thing to go on LinkedIn and just like people and don't build relationships, but the people who is getting benefits from it, I would say that would be the US, Canada, and even Middle East is coming quite strong right now. Right. And that's what I think is fascinating, being on LinkedIn, to start to see which countries is it that is moving around.
I think, it's for me, for having engaged with or re-engaged with LinkedIn over the last 12 months and meeting guys like Doug. I mean, I've always been around the sales and marketing, environment, but I didn't realize how important good copy was and the ability to write well. And I think that that's something that I've really enjoyed working with Doug. And maybe Doug, you can, Doug's one of those underestimated content, marketers, and he's a great copywriter. And if you look at some of his most recent posts, how well that he does with engagement with his audience. And I mean, Doug, talk about what you think, about the role of good copy in what Jenny's, doing with her clients.
Yeah, I want to bring up a point that's similar to what the question you're asking. It's because I work with other executives in Jenny's target market, and one of the biggest things they struggle with on LinkedIn is not showing up on LinkedIn, but it's actually writing really good posts, and that is the most underrated skill that many people have, because before you just needed a resume and prepare for the phone interview, and after the phone interview you went to the on-site interview and you met the team. As long as you did that, your interview on LinkedIn is every day, and every post is being evaluated. That is not how good you show up on the phone, it's how good you show up on your post day in and day out. And most people that I work with struggle with that concept because they don't have a good foundation in copy. And for those who don't know what copy means, it means writing really well that captivates the audience. So a lot of times when companies hire me and they say, hey, we want a LinkedIn strategy, and I'm always like, that's fine, but how well do you write? And of course, like, I don't write. That's what I'm going to pay you for. Oh, no, you're not going to pay me to write for you. You're going to write for yourself, and I will help you along the way. And bottom line is, if you don't have good copy skill, you're not going to get far on LinkedIn. And that's also another part of the reality between the different generations, when the older generation just had to show up on the phone and build your resume or your CV packet with accomplishment, and you'll get the interview. Not so much anymore. Now, you've got to create an online brand with a solid foundation in copy and a solid foundation in internet marketing, if that makes sense. So, and after, by the way, Simon did an incredible job of that. He probably doesn't give himself that much credit. I don't know why. He's really hard on himself, but he's one of the better, I don't want to use this term as an insult, but you're one of the better older people, Simon, that you.
I'm pissed off now. I'm turning it off. I'm canceling the video.
You don't sound like a grandpa, you know what I mean?
Hey, I don't have kids yet. My kids don't have kids yet, or they better not have kids, right?
So anybody, if any executive is looking for how to write really good copy, I almost always 100% say, go look at Simon Shan's post. There's a guy that I would not say is totally vulnerable. I mean, you're kind of hard around the exterior, Simon. You've got to really poke you to, have a good time. But the point remains, you've got to have copy skills, online presence, and Jenny's role right now is the perfect time to get on this. What do you think, Simon?
Well, Jenny, how does an executive, how does an old executive like me, according to Doug, right? how do we create an online brand?
From my end, I would say just start, because what happened last year is a huge difference on the job market. Because we moved and became online or working remote, all of us, we have to start creating relationships online. So if you need to just start using a language that you're using when you do networking offline. So why would you would never meet someone and start talking a formal language with corporate jargon when you meet someone face to face. So if you just start there and start writing, imagine that LinkedIn would be a networking event that you go to. And if you just start on that level, you can go quite far. And then, I mean, I agree, Doug can definitely teach you how to write in a better way, but you can come quite far just by being a human and just starting from, this is a networking event. How do I network with people? How do I speak to people in a just normal way? And if you don't need to go all in from day one, you can just start very small, and you can have, like, the many people I work with, they have started sharing articles, and they just share an article, but they don't say anything about the article. So one thing could be just 2 lines about what is it about that article that is interesting? Why should I take the time out to read this? So even if you just have a quote from that article or a fact from that article, that's an easy win. That's a very easy win to see that this is something interesting for you. And yeah, the guy I was talking to yesterday, he started a month ago, and he said he'd just been doing it, and he was surprised how many interviews he got in just a month, because he was doing that, and he's been unemployed for a longer time. And that's what I think is, start small, really small, and just see how that creates engagement. But then I would say, if you really want to do a personal brand, it's more about understanding where do you want to go. So in my case, again, coming back to you working with a multi-generational workforce, you have to show that you actually can communicate with everyone. You can't just communicate with senior people. You have to show, if you're going to attract people to come working for your company, you have to show that you can work with them, and they won't listen to corporate jargon. The young people don't have the attention span to listen to corporate jargon. So you have to be transparent, you have to be human, and all of that. So I would say that will be one of the things that I will be working on, to say, your network today might just be people who looks like you, who talks like you, who acts like you. And you need to expand that and start thinking about other people, how they behave, and start engaging with them. And that's okay that you don't know how they behave. That's you will learn. That's part of the journey of personal branding. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a learning process, and you have to start engaging with people to understand how they learn and how they engage with content and all that. So that would be my bigger thing.
What do you say to those people that say, well, I've already got a job, I'm happy, I don't like LinkedIn, I don't really need it? And I've got colleagues in that exact same space. They're very successful in their corporate world. They have no desire to be on social media, and they can't really see the point. What do you say to those people?
I actually started writing a post just before we went to the call now, that I will post tomorrow, but it's more about, this is a Kodak moment. When we were operating, growing up, or doing the career, people were talking about Kodak and Blockbuster as they didn't keep up with the time. Well, this is the time. And you can't say we didn't tell you. We have told you that you need to be on LinkedIn, you need to have a personal brand. So if you're not, then in 2 years' time, you might be out of a job, and then you don't have any currency to get the job, because the people who are on LinkedIn right now, they're building relationships. So the relationships becomes the new currency for the future job market. So even if I lose my job tomorrow, if I know that I have 50 people there to support me, or who can help me find gigs in a different way, then I'm okay. I'm not afraid to lose my job, which means I'm probably more successful in the job that I'm doing, because I know that I have a platform to land on, if that makes sense.
Doug, do you know what Jenny was meaning by the word Kodak moment? That, for old people, that's a camera company, so we know that as an old person. Okay.
I know the meaning of the word. I am an older millennial. I'm not a millennial. So I know what Kodak moment means. But what brings up a fantastic point about, your friend Simon, who said, well, I'm successful. I don't need to do anything. LinkedIn, what for? And Jenny had a great follow-up to that. And I will push it even further. There will be a time in their career where a 20-something-year-old or even a young 30-year-old is going to take their job because they have an online brand, because they can communicate a message to a wide variety of people, because they can bring their network to the company. When people used to hire, you used to bring your education, your skills, your experience, right? Now companies are looking for networks to bring to the company, and that's what they want. Network. And what do I mean by network? Network is not just your followers, like your follower count. You can buy those. That's the sad fact. You can buy a following. However, your network is the number of people talking about you day in and day out. People who are showing up on your podcast stream, people are showing up on your LinkedIn Live, people who are showing up on your email. Having that kind of a network is what companies are looking for. Companies are more willing to bring on a young gun who can be tech savvy, who can speak a particular message and bring the network online for them, rather than going after an old geezer who is in the dinosaur age as far as a lifestyle, as far as a mindset. Companies are looking for a different type of mindset. I think you're going to find that companies are going to start using their employees to build a network, because you've got people like Gong, a whole bunch of other companies who say, you know what, forget me as the CEO. I have a wonderful team of people that I'm going to put online, and they're just going to talk about themselves, and they're going to build Gong up from the ground up using outreach via social media platform. And if you're an executive that can't understand that, you're not going to be on a job for very long.
And I would add to that as well. I think one company that I really recommend people to check out is Brewdog in the UK. It's a brewery in the UK. They had 200 restaurants that had to close overnight because of the lockdown. And overnight, they almost changed their whole production into different things. But the most amazing thing they have done is they have repositioned themselves as almost like a climate change activist. And now, because they already have a very loyal group of customers, but they keep engaging them. So now they have done everything from, if you buy a beer, we buy a tree, and they do all fun things around how they're engaging people in doing this in a complete different way. So again, when an executive come to me and say, I can't change my industry because I've been working in this industry, I can't do it. I say, go and look at them. They had no clue about climate change before, and they've been doing so many amazing initiatives around climate change this year or last year as well. That is quite astonishing. And they had to basically overnight make a change in the company if they were going to survive. And that's what I think is happening right now. People, it moves so quickly, so you have to change, but you don't know all the results. You can't predict what's going to happen. They didn't know if they were going to be successful. They took a risk and they changed. And I think that is what I guess our generation struggle with, to take a risk without knowing. You don't have all the facts. We can't predict the future, but you have to make an effort and start trying and experiment. That's what the bottom line is.
And Jenny, what about the how do you teach a lifelong career executive to be vulnerable online? They look at LinkedIn, and I notice from a person that was on LinkedIn for probably 10 years before I really re-engaged with it last year, because I thought, well, the pandemic hit and our transportation business was, ground to a halt. And thought, well, if we're going to be sitting home in our underwear for the next year, I might as well do something. And exercise wasn't an option. So I thought, oh, I've got to do LinkedIn. So, and that's when I met crazy people like Doug. But, you know, I've got a lot of colleagues that said, Simon, why do you tell people about your divorce or your kids on LinkedIn? You know, why do you share personal stuff? And I said, well, because I'd share that with you if I was having a drink with you at a bar or at a restaurant. You would probably find that out about me over dinner. Why wouldn't I tell you that now? And but I realize I'm probably in the minority because I'm a little bit unusual. But what do you say to those, you know, those corporate lifelong execs, how to be vulnerable online?
I never point fingers to anyone. I try to use best practice, and I start showing people what other people are doing, and then we can have a discussion about it. So if I would, for instance, in your case, I was amazed when you shared your story about what happened a year ago and all of that. And that's a brilliant story. If you can do it, what's stopping other people from doing it? Yeah. And if you just have a human discussion about it, what do you think is the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
And if that happened, what would you do? And normally you can find a solution for if something would happen. The worst thing that could happen, nobody likes it or nobody engaged with it. Okay, would you die for that? No. What's the worst thing that could happen? You try again. Okay, so let's try again and see if you can find a different content. So it's more about first find other people who's already doing it and learn from them. And then, like I said, start small. But normally it's more about showing that there are other people who looks like them, who speaks like them. They have done this. So there's no excuse why they wouldn't be. But I don't need to take a 20-year-old person and compare with them. I will compare them with someone who is in their age and already doing this.
Would you agree that there's been a remarkable transformation in the LinkedIn ecosystem in the last year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a game changer. I would say it's a complete game changer. I've been working with recruitment for the past 7 years and working with people strategies. I work with employer branding, and I mean, I've been using LinkedIn to headhunt people. But the way I see LinkedIn now is the way you get customer insights and the way you can learn about talent, and I mean real-time talent, what people can actually do here now. I have never, ever experienced something like that we are seeing right now. And I think LinkedIn is extremely powerful. And also, I think what many people are saying, I have talked to many people who say, first of all, the pandemic is not going anywhere. Vaccine or no vaccine, it's not going anywhere. So we might as well get on with it. And then the next thing is the other platforms are a lot of people complaining. So LinkedIn is the only platform where people are focused on work and get on with things. And you don't see many people complaining on LinkedIn. I hardly see any posts on LinkedIn that someone is complaining or something like that. So it's more about if you want to get on with your job and you want to see a positive future and you don't want to be scared about the news or what's going on, LinkedIn is a really good platform to stay motivated for and have hope for the future, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would agree entirely. Doug?
Yeah, I was going to agree 100%. I've been in social media marketing probably 9 years. So Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and I've seen the trend over time. And LinkedIn, by far, is the most powerful network you can ever tap into. See, Facebook is a really hard network to tap into because you've got to weed through all the complaining, all the toxic political talk, all the racism, all the sexism, all the isms, right? It's all on Facebook. Twitter, I mean, it's a troll paradise. People love to bring down other people hard and fast. You've got to be really on top of your game on Twitter to fight off people who are trying to bring you down. On LinkedIn, I would argue a little bit is probably fake. Like it's fake positivity, it's fake happy copy. However, that said, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn looking to the solution. They're looking for solutions They're looking to grow their network. They're looking to grow themselves as well. So it's a very positive platform, and it's one of the very few platforms that can do that. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Clubhouse, it's going to go the same way as Facebook. Right now, they're doing good. They're having explosive growth. But pretty soon, all the crybabies, all the Debbie Downers are going to hop on and start complaining nonstop about, whoever, whatever. And so, yeah, I agree with Jenny 100%. What about you, Simon? I have a question for Simon. Simon, what made you? I know you keep saying the pandemic, but really, in your mind's eye, you were running a transportation business. You had a lifelong career in sales. You have a lot of stuff. What made you say, hey, I'm going on LinkedIn and I'm going to give this a shot? And I don't have a plan. I'm not looking to sell anything. I'm just going to go on and see what it's all about. And by the way, what's extremely strange is because when you go on LinkedIn with an ulterior motive, that doesn't work.
Right.
You've got to go on LinkedIn. Even though you need a job, you need money, you need gig, you've got to go on the opposite of what you really want, which is really real. Anyway, Simon, what was the mindset that got you on LinkedIn fully?
I mean, I think it was a couple of things. I think that I'd never really tackled social media, and I came from a digital background. I mean, I had a digital agency back in Australia, in the early 2000s, and we focused on email marketing. And, as a company, we've always done email marketing, but I really never embraced social media. I dislike Facebook. I don't look good in yoga pants, so I don't go on Instagram. I hate Twitter. I mean, if they can cancel a president's Twitter account, what are they going to do to a, semi-alcoholic Australian? So I don't think they're going to let me on Twitter for very long. I mean, I just decided that I'm going to try and master social media and find a platform that I could find my groove. And I think I did with LinkedIn. You're right. I didn't want a job. I've never pushed our transportation business on LinkedIn. And, through the last 12 months, I hate the word pivot, but I did pivot. I wanted to get I've let our transportation business be run by very capable people, and I don't really want to run it much more, and I think but I found my voice on LinkedIn, and I've built an amazing tribe of people. And as Jenny said, look, if I needed work tomorrow, I'm sure I could tap people. I stumbled across a big consulting gig 3 months ago because a buddy of mine I used to work with 20 years ago in Australia saw me on LinkedIn. And it's just one of those big, heavy consulting assignments that I've got probably for the next year. I didn't go looking for it, but I suppose if I did put my hand out, I'm sure people would, talk with me. And I think and I just really enjoy it. I think that the connection that we have is important. I think, I've met, without making your shiny head go red, I mean, I've met amazing people like you that have great skills that I think that I benefit from. And so, and in full transparency, yes, I hire you, but I think you would have, you started helping me a lot before, we had a commercial arrangement. And so, but I think that's, people are looking for that genuine connection, and all the pandemic did was exacerbate that need to connect socially on a platform. What do you think, Jenny?
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing, and I would say that in depth, even when I met Doug and the talks that you have on LinkedIn, I think it's fascinating that I can meet people on LinkedIn that ask me more relevant questions about what I do than people I've known for 10 years or 20 years or something. It's like, I can't describe it. It's more like, it's the same energy people have. It's the same positive, people want to do something, they want to build something, they want to explore something. And I mean, I love the fact that Doug has challenged me a couple of times on things that I've been thinking or the way I do things. And it's the same thing with the with the younger people that I'm in contact with as well, they challenge me, and I have to think, and that's what I enjoy the most. That not everything that I do is great, but it's an experiment, and it's work in progress, and you keep learning from all the time, and never underestimate. I think that what many people are doing wrong when you become unemployed, it doesn't matter if you're older generation or younger generation, is that you go straight to someone and say, do you have a job? And it's like going to someone and say, do you have a car? It's like, it's everything. It's so wide, so it's difficult to give advice about that, or to give someone. But if you would go to someone and say, look, I'm looking for a project where I can help people grow an audience in healthcare or health tech industry, and I want to move them into 2 new markets. Do you know anybody? People can start responding to that. They can respond to a specific question about the problem, and they will know someone or somewhere. And that's what I think is interesting with LinkedIn, that even for a while I was not connecting with people who didn't send me a message. And then I just realized maybe I should just start asking them about leadership and just engage with them about leadership. It doesn't have to be anything special. They have reached out to me for some reason, but everyone I know have a connection with leaders one way or the other. So I might as well learn from them and listen to what they see as a problem, because I can use it as a content, or I can see what, I mean, in the long run, it could come referrals from it, but it's not only that, it's more about, it's a very agile way to do market research. Learn from the people straight away. I don't need to wait 1 month to get the insight. I can get it now. And I think that's even coming back to Sweden, here people have a lot of meetings. I wasn't used to that. And the young people now I work with, they definitely doesn't have any meetings. They do things and see what happens. So yeah, I think that's what I learned from LinkedIn.
I mean, I'll give you an example. Sorry, Doug. While I remember that, there was a guy that's on our LinkedIn group, sort of, in our, let's call it our tribe. And he wrote me a message yesterday saying he's unhappy with his job and he's looking around. Now, this guy's amazing. Like, he literally is amazing. His copy skills are excellent. His engagement is terrific. He's just great. And I think that, so what he's done by sort of reaching out to people like Doug and I, he's enlisted his own, a band of cheerleaders and I'm convinced that our network would be able to help him find an opportunity before he even hits a recruiter, because we're like evangelists for him. We believe in him so much. He's earned the right to ask us for help, because he's got his content on LinkedIn is so good. And I think that was a real example of the power of LinkedIn and the power of the network, because he's never going to get to a recruiter. I promise you that, Jen. He's not to say that he shouldn't, but he's just probably not going to get to one. And it's funny, I recommended him to someone and he said, I'm already meeting her on the 18th of the month. And so he's already, he knows what he's doing. So the other thing I will say, where I disagree completely with Doug, is that he has no clue on what he's talking about with Clubhouse. Okay? Clubhouse is going to go gangbusters, right? See, look at him. He's just pissed off because I'm right and he's wrong, right?
Clubhouses grind my gear because it's really a very big Zoom meeting without the audio.
Yeah, but you can leave. If you don't like it, you just leave the room, you fool. You just walk out. It's like going into a bar and saying, it's full of bikers. I'm not staying here. I'm going to the next one with pretty women. Okay, so honestly, it's amazing. It's amazing. You should pull your head out of your ass and give it time. Okay, we'll edit that ass bit out because I know that's a Chicago word that you don't like.
I'll do it.
What do you think, Jenny? What do you think about Clubhouse? Have you been on it at all?
No, I'm the worst person in the world because I have an Android phone. And
you won't get it.
I changed it 2 years ago, and it was the worst decision ever. I'm never going to change my iPhone again. So I hear about it, But still, I would actually agree with you, Simon. I do think it's here to stay. And the way I was talking to people about it as well is, I think like everywhere else, it's 50-50. 50% are there just to speak about themselves and be there. But I think it's pretty cool that you can meet people like the other day when LinkedIn was having a town hall, and you meet actually the CEO of town hall, so that you can access people that you used to pay big money to go and see, and they will come in a quite informal setting. And if you can get those kind of people in your room, then it can be quite powerful. I can imagine the people who is navigating this in a great way, they are ahead of the game for sure. So I do think it's all about ideas and combining different ideas. And if you start having the right network of people around you, and you go on, like, if you create a product and you just need feedback, instead of doing a big market research and take 1 month or 2 months, you get the right people in the room, they will give you feedback about the product, boom, it's there. And then the day after you fix it.
And I think when they work out how to monetize it, but let's just say, take your business, for example, in recruitment. And you say, if you're a C-level executive and you've just been made redundant, okay, if you could get Jenny and 6 other thought leaders in that space into a private room, which you paid for, and then you spoke about what it is that you want out of life, what it is that you want out of your next career, the focused attention you could get in a room environment like that would be absolutely staggering, because you would be able to essentially brief 6 recruitment experts on you. They could have your CV or resume or whatever it was, or be looking at your profile altogether. And that hour or 90 minutes would be worth thousands. And I know executives that would pay thousands to do something like that, because they're never going to get the 6 of you ever in a room together. But the fact that if they could do that, and so I think that the answer to Clubhouse is hyper-local. It's not joining a room of 600 or 700 people and listening to something, right? It's absolutely the rooms that have got 6 to 8 to 10 people in them. And I think once Clubhouse work out how to monetize it, or Doug, for example, Doug could host a copywriting or content marketing room. He could charge for that. Well, we would have help, we would have help.
There is a guy called what's it called now? Darmody.
On LinkedIn?
Yes. He did a post the other day about, which I loved. He predicted that Clubhouse will be the new platform for interviews. Yeah, imagine going on Clubhouse and say, okay, totally agile. In 5 hours, you have your interview on Clubhouse. You have to stand up, give your speech to whoever people. And I just love that idea. That's the future for me. That's not about taking time, scheduling, waiting for your turn. No, are you in or out? You have to speak about yourself. This is what's going to happen. And that is something that I really enjoy. That's for me, is the future. If you can start using Clubhouse like that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the consulting project I'm on is raising a lot of capital for a client. Okay, so we've been tasked to raise about $14 million. And so, VCs would jump at the fact that if you could get 10 VCs on a room, and I did my pitch on the,
have you tried it?
No, because we're still doing it the old fashioned way, but trying to get 10 VCs together is difficult in itself, but they would actually probably enjoy it more, because it's like speed dating. They can have a quick look at what's the pitch deck, tell me the thing, off we go. Call me later. It's just a huge, that would accelerate the time to raise capital by a factor of 100, right?
Absolutely. I think you should do it. I think you should start looking into doing that. I think it's a brilliant idea.
Doug, what were you going to say before we interrupted you? Sorry.
I was going to say, as Jenny was speaking, and then you were speaking, my mind is always working. And yeah, I could totally see that LinkedIn is where you host your restaurant in the traditional sense. Your body of work in terms of posting, commenting, DM, all of that is your resume. And then you go on to Clubhouse to give your interview, whatever it is. And that's really the future. I think people of older generation need to understand that Generation C and the millennials have ruined the establishment. We have absolutely demolished, not demolished, we are about to demolish the establishment, and we take great pride in that. And
What's Generation C? What's Generation C?
Hear me out for a second. I don't think older people need to feel they need to understand that we are the most influential people in terms of changing culture than you've ever experienced before. Because before, you needed permission to be an influencer. You needed to have money to buy ads. You needed to have money to own a magazine. You needed to have money to go to college and pay for network. Now you don't need permission. You do not need permission to get a job. You create the job you want through your social media platform. I have not applied for a job in a decade, more than a decade. And I don't say that bragging. It's because my mindset is, well, number one, they're not going to hire a guy who talks like that, period. Not going to happen. More than not, they're going to be like, why does he talk like that? So I want to get rid of that. Number two, I hate the dog and pony show, putting on my student tie with my little briefcase and going to my job interview, shaking everyone's hand, shaving my beard, trimming my nails, whitening my teeth. No, I hate that. Gen Z hates that. Millennials hate that. We hate khaki pants and loafers and, we hate that kind of stuff. But the game changed. Clubhouse, LinkedIn are the new evolution that's going to work hand in hand with each other. And for you, Johnny, your people have got to get on, or they're going to be, collecting food stamps like me way back in the day. So anyway,
you have changed now.
Go ahead, Simon. Go ahead.
Doug, you have changed now. You went from it's going backwards with Clubhouse, and now you're a complete advocate of Clubhouse. Welcome.
He is a true consultant, Jenny.
I'm a hypocrite.
You can't keep it.
I'm an easy date. If you just say something I like, I can switch everything around. Right? Well, that's also a trait of Gen Z and the millennials. We can change. You don't have to be the stubborn block of concrete. You can change, and we do change. We change brand, like we change our daily underwear. We are not connected to a brand the same way our parents were. I buy Tide, not Downy. We don't care. What have you made me feel today? Oh, that's what I'm going to buy today.
But I would like to add to that. This is, I think, the biggest challenge for the job market right now, that it's a tension between generations, and nobody have bad intentions. Wherever they're coming from, nobody have bad intentions. Everybody grew up in a different time, and that's why you behave in a different way, or you view things. So again, one of the things I care about is building bridges between generations and helping generations out. The system thinking and the big global thinking and commercial awareness that the senior management or the senior people have is invaluable for young people. And I think that needs to be brought into the mix. And it's more about the young people also start asking questions, how people see things. So, okay, so you don't want to do this. Where is this coming from? Or what is it? How could I help you? So I think it's more about, it's not black or white, that the senior people don't want to do this. They do want to do this, but they just don't know how to. And it's more about inviting people in and say, look, can I help you? Can I get 5-10 minutes with you and I can show you something? And I think that's where I think it's not about being stubborn that I don't want to do this. It's more about, can someone just invite me and I'm happy to listen. I think it comes down to that. So I think it's a two-way thing. Young people need to be curious around what they can learn from the senior people and vice versa.
I mean, I think, Jenny, from my experience in corporate, is that the senior leadership, this is keeping them awake at night. They have to work out how to pass the baton to the next, generation. And that's what they're, if you go back to what Doug says, and I know he makes it tongue in cheek about his being deaf. And when he first said that, I thought, oh, I just thought you were from Chicago. And I thought that's how all people speak from Chicago. But, corporate, there's a thing called diversity and inclusion in corporate now. And Doug could easily go back to corporate if he wanted to. He wouldn't, he makes tongue in cheek of the fact no one would hire a person that speaks like him, but they hire people like him every day. And it's not based on the fact that he can't hear a word we're saying. It's based on what can he actually do for the organization. And I see that every day with high tech that I work with. But the same thing with Procter and Gamble, and with the Fortune 500, I've got, slews of people with Doug's, I wouldn't call it, what's the politically correct word? It's not a disability. It's
neurodiversity.
Diversity, yeah.
Neurodiversity.
Is it? Yeah. And so I think he's just stubborn and doesn't want to go back to corporate. Because he's doing too well on being.
I thought you were asking me that question, that none of you could get a job in the beginning.
No, we couldn't. we couldn't. We would get fired both of us would get fired by lunchtime. I'll donate money to a charity if you can get Doug and I a job and we stay there for more than a week. We'll do it as an experiment, right?
Okay, game on. That would be a social media challenge we would do.
Yeah, it'd make that.
We would generate so much. We would generate a lot of content as well as followers. I think if we did that for a week, that would actually be fun to do.
We'll do it. Doug, go first. I'll start at 10. He can start at 9. I promise you will be in HR by 11:30. Promise.
You just said that you will be fired by lunchtime. I know you're joking, but I think if we release what I'm about to say is that you are anti-fragile. Meaning, if you're fired by lunchtime because of your social media following, because of your brand, you can find another gig, whether it's a consulting gig or a board gig or whatever. You are anti-fragile. So if you can be free to be yourself and get fired by lunchtime, and then tomorrow morning, log on to LinkedIn, get back to your life. By the end of the week, you'll find another job, guaranteed. Because you've done the work within the year of connecting with people, of building an online brand, of hiring the right people to support you. Sure, go get fired by lunchtime. Have fun with that. But you get the last laugh because while you're eating, I don't know what you Australians eat, I don't know, kangaroo cereal or whatever, but while you're eating your cereal, you'll get another job. And that's the beauty of online branding.
Well, yeah, but I think more, I say that tongue in cheek because I don't like corporate, the bureaucracy would drive me mad because you and I would go sit into a marketing meeting and they would take 3 hours to tell us something we could tell them in 10 minutes, and so I wouldn't tolerate that now. But I have to work with that every day when I consult. And so I put up with it, and just bite my tongue and, that's what I say. But, well, Jenny, we're coming up on the top of the hour and we only want to keep you, away from your real job for an hour. But I love these conversations and I think you've got so much to share with your audience. And if you can hold Doug's attention for 50 minutes, you're nothing short of a miracle worker. So what are some things, some closing things that, well, and I say this generally, what advice do you have for guys like for Doug and I, about social media and what we're doing?
I believe the future is in finding your niche and understanding where you want to go. Just say that there's a lot of copywriters out there. Even for me, when I'm coming in and I want to work with someone, it's difficult to know which one should I work with. And different people are used to different things. One of the reasons why I resonated with Doug was that he understood my business and he's been using a coach himself. So he knew what I was working on and why that was needed. So the more I think people find a niche, the better it is. The more kind of narrow, because it's so many people still on LinkedIn, and we are all going to keep working remote. So again, even for me, if you would have asked me 6 months ago if I would work with 20 different countries or nationalities, never in my mind. I didn't have that as a business plan, that this is what I'm going to do. And I have never thought about Middle East before. That was never part of my plan either. So now I'm learning about that. So the advice I would say is to find your niche, but stay open-minded and see what comes to you, because you might, I like to call it hypothesis. Have 3 hypotheses that you're trying out and see what gains most engagement with you. And then you can start working that thing out in the middle. Because I think that's, of course I can work with younger people as well, but I found that 40 plus is my thing, and that's what I enjoy the most and where I can make the biggest difference. But yesterday I connected with a guy who's working with 30-year-old people. And we can find collaborations between us because we do similar things, but our target audience have different challenges. So it doesn't have to be one way. This is the only way to do things. So I would say those 2 things would be my advice.
Okay.
But the other way around, because you guys have been longer engaged on LinkedIn than I have, what advice would you give to me then?
Hire Doug.
No, Simon, go. Older people first.
I'm going to whoop his ass when I see him. You know, we've never met, but I'm going to whoop his ass. When we first get together, I'm going to smack him on his bald head. I mean, I think I think you have to be genuine. I think you have to be, you know, as some people call it, being brave. You know, I use the same analogy. If the 3 of us went out and had dinner somewhere, we would get to know each other fairly quickly. You know, warts and all, whether you like it or not. I mean, you just, because you don't have dinner with, I mean, you know, most of us have dinner with people we want to have dinner with and we like. And so I'm pretty sure the 3 of us would get on famously, and we would get to know each other and we'd have a laugh and a glass of wine or 2, or, you know, and it's just, I think you've got to, if you're not prepared to take that risk, then you're wasting your time on LinkedIn. If you can't be a little bit vulnerable, because look at the traction people get when they are, you know, and people say, well, we shouldn't be worried about vanity metrics. Well, Doug and I, you know, we probably agree that you should be worried about some sort of metrics, because that's sales and marketing. And, you know, I have a lot of people, you know, reach out to me privately and say, oh, I really like what you're doing on LinkedIn. They've never made a comment or like at all, but they know who I am and they know what I'm doing, and I've reconnected with them. And I'd say that the most important thing is just be you. And, you know, because the sincerity stuff people will just see through tomorrow. And I think, you know, the other thing I'd say is that remember that you have a digital footprint, and that footprint's going to be with you forever. And so if you're not careful with what you're doing, and I said, look, I don't regret any post that I've made, and I know there's been a few, you know, maybe very personal ones, but I don't regret any of it, because I'm not worried about the footprint, you know. But I think there's some things you should stay away from, you know. And LinkedIn is, it's a great community. So that's all I'd say. Doug?
Yeah, I think the number 1 tip I could give anyone, including you, Jenny, is patience. It takes a little bit of time. Most people don't have the patience. When they show up the first month and they get 0 likes, 0 comments, and they think, okay, it's not for me. No, you've got to take the time to develop your network and make the connection, keep posting. It compounds. If you have the patience to let it compound, it will pay off. If you don't, you're going to be one of those people that LinkedIn not for me. So LinkedIn is for everyone who has patience. Take time to network properly, be genuine, like Simon was saying, and a lot of work is stuff. Instead of trying to game it every day, think long term, think 90 days out. What's my progress from day 1 to 90 days? That's more important than, did I get a lead today? Did I get a job offer today? That's not important. 90 days, see what you've come through. You're going to find that your baseline goes up every month, right? And then 90 days, when you look up, you realize that you were here and now you're here, and just keep going. So that's what I got.
Perfect. Hey, Jenny, thanks so much for spending time with us.
No, thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I hope we will do it again soon.
You will. We'll send you the sort of, you know, blurb that we use at the start, and then we'll send a link to the whole thing. It was actually really good. I think people would get a lot out of it, not from me, but you and Doug especially. But you know, but it's good. So have a good day.
You too. Take care.
Okay, ciao.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.